Now once we have understood that what are integers, now we are going to study about the multiplication of integers. We are going to study it by taking some examples. The first case, which means what happens when a positive integer is multiplied by another positive integer. This is the question, that what happens when the positive integers or integer is multiplied by another positive integers. So always remember that when the positive integer or first positive integer is multiplied by another positive integer, the result is always a positive integer. Very important, the result is always a positive integer. Let's take some examples. Suppose we have got one positive integer number as plus 2. This is a positive integer. If I multiply plus 2 with another positive integer, let's say plus 3. So what is the answer? Let's check it out. Plus into plus gives you plus. 2 3s are 6. So can you see that? The result is plus 6, which means it is a positive integer. So whenever positive integer multiplied by another positive integer, the result is always a positive integer. Second case. What happens when a positive integer is multiplied by a negative integer? Negative integer. Always remember, when a positive integer is multiplied by a negative integer, the result is always a negative integer. Very important, the result is always a negative integer. Let's try to understand the second case also by taking one example. Let's take a positive integer, say plus 2, and let's take one negative integer as minus 4. So what happens when we multiply these two numbers? Remember, plus into minus is always minus. 2 into 4 is 8. So the result is minus 8, which means when a positive integer is multiplied by a negative integer, the result is always a negative integer. Third case, which is what happens when a negative integer is multiplied by a positive integer. What happens when a negative integer is multiplied by a positive integer? In this case also, students, it's very important, just remember this concept, either a positive integer multiplied by a negative integer or a negative integer multiplied by a positive integer. In both the cases, the answer remains same, unaltered. The answer will be negative integer. Negative integer. Keep on writing with me. It's better to keep on writing down the notes. Alright, let's take one example of negative integer. Let's take minus 1. And let's take one positive number, that is plus 2. So what is minus into plus? The result is always minus. 2 1s are 2. So as we can see, again, when a negative integer is multiplied by a positive integer, the result is again a negative integer. And let's take the final case, which is what happens when a negative integer is multiplied by another negative integer, which means this time we can see that both the numbers are negative. Here also we have got negative integer, in the other portion we have got negative integer. So always remember, when a negative integer is multiplied by another negative integer, the result is always a positive integer. It's always a positive integer. So now from this we have concluded that when a positive integer multiplied by a positive integer, it always gives a positive integer. Positive integer multiplied by a negative integer or a negative integer multiplied by a positive integer. In both the cases we have got the same answer, that is, it gives a negative integer. In the last case, when a negative integer is multiplied by another negative integer, the result is always a positive integer. Should we take one example? Yes, of course, we can. Let's take one number that is -2 and let's take one number that is -5. They both are negative numbers, negative integers. Let's multiply them. Minus into minus gives you plus. 2 5s are 10. So can you see that the answer is a positive integer? So this is the basic concept of multiplication of integers. Pause this video for a while. Note down this content in your copy. It's very important. And before that, and before ending today's topic, I just want you to remember that there's a very important sign convention which you're supposed to learn, and it's very important in your algebra as well. This is called as the sign convention or the multiplication of signs. Pay attention. Remember, when a positive sign is multiplied by a negative sign, the result is always a negative sign. When a negative sign is multiplied by a positive sign, again the answer is a negative sign. What happens when a positive sign is multiplied by another positive? The result is a positive sign. What happens when a negative sign is multiplied by a negative sign? Again, the answer is positive. In total, you have to learn that when same signs are multiplied with each other, the answer is always a positive sign. When different signs are multiplied with each other, the answer is always a negative sign. I'll repeat myself. It's a very interesting as well as very important concept. Try to remember it. Once again, when different signs are multiplied together, the answer is always a negative sign. For example, plus multiplied by minus or minus multiplied by plus. But when same signs are multiplied with each other, the result is always a positive sign. That's all for today. In the next class, we will continue with some important properties of multiplication of integers. Thank you.